Hi, my friends. Welcome to another episode of From Impossible to Inevitable. I am your host, Megan Power. Thank you so much for pushing play today and joining me for what I hope will be a perspective shift for you, for whatever you're facing right now, or what may be right around the corner for you in the coming days or week. Just as a reminder, if you're listening to me on a podcast platform, you can watch the episode on YouTube, and there's a link for you in the show notes if you are interested in doing that. So here's the perspective shift I have for you today. Nothing means anything. We all get to decide what things mean. We typically like to qualify things as good or bad, and they go in these buckets, and that's just what they are, nice, clean, labeled. And we get to decide those labels. We get to decide what our experiences or our situations or our circumstances mean. And sometimes we forget that that is actually a decision that we get to make. So, an example from my life that has really highlighted this idea to me is probably back when Jake and I were in 3 or 4 years into marriage, maybe 3 years. And we didn't have a whole lot of money. There were lots of months where it was, do we want food or do we want gas? And it was a really hard time. And Berlin was little. She was just a baby. And I remember feeling like nothing was ever going to change, that we were going to be in this situation forever. We were going to struggle forever. We were just stuck, and it was just going to be forever. It felt like it was never ending. And then one day he came home with the news that he was being laid off. And I remember the deep feeling of relief because finally things were going to change. And it was really surprising to me because that was my default. That's what I just went to. I went to relief. I was so relieved that he was let go because I knew that something else was on the corner or around the corner on the horizon. I knew that there was something else. And he was really surprised. I mean, I was surprised too, but he was really surprised because he was very nervous about telling me because I was already feeling so down and depressed about our situation. And I think for most of the time, we're all kind of programmed to be like, well, things are already bad. So when something else bad, that bad, quote unquote, that happens, it just feels like, oh, it just gets worse and it just gets worse. And that's kind of where we go to. That's where our default is. But in this situation, that wasn't my default. My default was relief. And so it was really surprising to both of us. And I was right. Within a couple of weeks, he got a new job. It was a better job, meant more money. It meant more flexibility. It meant we could have gas and food. And it was such a better situation. However, I had like that ingrained faith that when he got let go, that there was something better on the horizon for us. And that situation has always really stuck out to me. So in 2021, Jake was laid off again. And the same thing happened. It was like, okay, something better is right around the corner. That right around the corner was like 9 months, but it is a better situation. It is a better job. It has been so good. And I think part of the reason that we have been able to embrace those tricky situations is because we didn't label his job loss as bad. It's like, okay, it's time to move on. It's time for a transition. It's time for a change. And We get to choose those no matter what happens. If you get in a car accident, that could be a bad thing, or it could be a good thing. Maybe, I don't know, the possibilities are endless. You've heard stories about people who've gotten into car accidents and had to go to the hospital, and then they found a tumor, and that, ended up saving their life. You've heard stories like that. And sometimes we don't know the end result. Sometimes something happens that we would categorize as no thanks, and we never know what good came from that. We're like, okay, well, that was kind of crappy. I don't know why that had to happen. And you never get the other side of, the life-saving tumor finding. Sorry, that was weird. Um, we sometimes we don't see that. And maybe we don't see it for years or decades or whatever. However, we still get to choose how we view a situation. We still get to be like, okay, well, you can just come up with a situation. Sometimes when I'm stuck in traffic and I'm thinking like, this sucks, like I need to get to wherever and I don't want to be sitting here in traffic. I try to come up with possibilities or situations that this is actually a good thing. Like, well, actually, because I'm sitting in traffic, then I'm, you know, I don't know. Now I can't think of anything. Um, if I would have gotten to the store when I wanted to get to the store and parked in that spot that I would have just gravitated towards, and then the car next to me would have sideswiped me and then just left, But now that I'm stuck in traffic, that spot's going to be taken when I get there, and that's not going to be my day, and that's going to be fine. You can just come up with all sorts of situations of like why this is a good thing. Like, I am so thrilled that I got a flat tire with my kids in the car, and you know and that we got this chance to talk about their day and how they're feeling, when otherwise it would have just been rush rush rush. But now that somebody has to come help me change a tire and we're sitting here waiting and twiddling our thumbs, we actually get this real connection. There's all sorts of situations like that that you can look for the benefit. And if you can't find an immediate benefit, why not just make one up? Because honestly, you're making it up anyway. If you want to see something as negative, you're also making that up. And sometimes those situations, those quote unquote negative situations, happen to us for the benefit of someone else. And it's it's so much better, or it's so much lighter for us to view things in a positive or possibility um, expanding view, because we get to choose anyway. We can look at a situation and we can say, what else could this mean? I am tempted to be really upset about this. I am tempted to be really frustrated about this. But what else can this mean? What possible good can come from this? Now, there are situations and circumstances that just plain out freaking suck. And that I know that my imagination would fail me in coming up with some sort of good from it. However, I don't feel like that's the default. I don't feel like that on the day-to-day basis when we get bad news or when stuff breaks or we're stuck in traffic or we really need this one thing for dinner tonight and it's not at the store and whatever, or there's just all of these little things that happen. Like maybe your computer shuts down and all of your work is lost and you didn't save it. My dad's told me a story that when I was little, I think I picture myself crawling around, but I haven't really like asked what my age was. But he said he was doing all this work on the computer, all this coding, and he had spent hours doing it, hours. And then all of a sudden the computer shut off. And he was like, what the crap? What just happened with all my work? And he looks down and he sees my little finger that had just pushed the power button, just turned off the whole thing. And it's, when the big towers were on the floor, and I had just pushed that button. And that situation where he lost hours of work taught him to save on a regular, consistent, and timely basis. And that was the silver lining of that, because there could have been a time later, if he hadn't learned that lesson then, that he would have lost even more work and whatever, like you can use your imagination to think how that could have been worse in the future. But he learned that lesson then. So you're welcome. um, but you get to choose how you see these things. You get to choose how you see the situations. This morning, and this may be what brought on this episode today. This morning, we were giving our littlest, who is 3, a granola bar, and we were letting her watch a show on the iPad. And Jake was like, "You have a granola bar, and you have a show, and you have school today. It's the best day ever." And she said, "That's when it's darkest." And we were both like, "Wow, that was philosophical for 6:30 in the morning." What? And I don't really know what she actually intended that to mean, but Jake and I were just like, "Whoa, kid, that was deep." Like, when it's the best, that's when it's the darkest. Sure, you can look at it like that. You can be like, yeah, well, this is the best. So now it's just downhill from here. This is when it's actually the darkest. There's no hope. There's nothing to reach for. There's no progression. Wow. Whoa. Definitely not a life view I want. And I wish I knew what she actually meant, but it really spurred on the thought of like, you can choose to see anything how you want. You really can. You can choose to see, I have this great life. Everything's amazing. I have everything I want. And this is when it's the darkest. Yeah, you can take that on if you'd like. Or when it feels like it's the darkest and everything is crashing down on you and everything is terrible and everything sucks, you can be like, great, this is when it's the brightest because it's uphill from here. Because I've got so much excitement coming towards me, because I have so much good coming towards me, because all of my best days and best experiences are coming towards me. They're all on their way. And that's how I felt when Jake lost his job that time. And, when we were been married for like 4 years or something like that. I was like, great, things are about to change. Everything's on its way now. Because of this big change, everything's on its way. And you don't have to let it get to the point where you feel like everything sucks and everything's terrible and whatever. You don't have to let it get to that point. You can choose to be like, everything's on its way. Everything that I'm currently dissatisfied about or upset about or, I'm reaching for, it's all on its way. It's all coming. And you can choose to see it that way. We got I had this huge crack in our windshield. Felt like right after we bought our car is what it felt like. I think it was within a couple of months of buying a brand new car. It's just a giant crack across the windshield, and it's just like, awesome. This is really great. And you know, I dragged my feet for months on getting it tended to, but once I finally did, we ended up getting a free windshield because of our insurance, and it was awesome, and it wasn't a big deal. And the situation that I saw as like, this is so negative and so crappy, my nice car, this big crack on the windshield, it was really a neutral situation. It was really no big deal, especially once I decided to do something about it and get it replaced. No big deal. We have so many situations and circumstances in our lives that we just get so frustrated about when it's really no big deal. And we don't have to assign this negative energy to a thing that doesn't have to be negative at all. And maybe I needed a crack in my windshield because this poor windshield company needed work. And it was a really great blessing for that company to have my windshield to replace. You know, you can look at it like that. So nothing has meaning except what you decide it has. So remember that power that you have, that you get to choose. And say it out loud. Say, I am choosing, in this moment, I am choosing that this goes in the bad bucket. Am I making that my final decision? Does this have to go in the bad bucket? Is there any way I can look at this so that I can at least put it in a neutral bucket if I can't get it into a good bucket? Because you have that power. You can make that choice. Isn't that incredible? It's incredible. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for your subscriptions, for your likes, your shares, your comments, all of the love that you send to me energetically and over the internet. And I hope that this episode comes to your mind in a situation that you need it. And I hope that you are able to make a change in your thoughts to help you in your day and to help you feel better about whatever is going on, whatever you are facing. I send you all my love and all the sparkly things. Have a great day.